Hey, Heather. How are you? Good. How was your trip?
I want to call the December 11th meeting of the Planning Board and Zoning Commission to order. We have a roll call, please.
Bloomer,
Here.
Di Benedetto,
Here.
Whistler,
Here.
Boise,
Here.
Olson,
Here.
Conley,
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Hey, John, as we go through this stuff and you want to jump into this, just speak up because I may not be looking up at the screen.
That's fine. I will.
See your hand, yeah. Okay, well, it's been a while since we got together, and so hopefully we can get back in rhythm again and get going, and so, the first.
Quick question. There's no
Yeah.
video. There's no video on your guys' end. There we go.
All right,
Is that tech guy fell through the cracks again?
thanks, Jeremy. Okay, the minutes of the October 9th meeting, have everybody had a chance to review those before we go into discussion? Can I have a move to approve, please? A motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes for the,
October
that
9th.
was really far back, October 23rd meeting.
I'll second.
All right. All right, I have a motion to approve. The second, has any discussion or comment?
I did find one under new business A. It says plans to present at November counting, planning board, and it's county, not counting.
Okay,
Minor edit.
all right. Anything else?
No, that's all I know.
Teresa?
Nope, that's good.
Jeff? All right, having no other corrections, we'll call the roll, please.
Gray,
Here.
This is actually a vote, roll call vote.
Yeah. Roll call vote.
And he said here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He meant yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Conley,
Yeah.
Olson,
Yes.
Boise,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
Di Benedetto,
Yes.
Bloomer.
Yes. Okay, communications from the board. We're gonna start with, the mayor, gonna bring us an update of where we are with our assistant planner, or what the plans are going forward.
Yep, so it's a two-part conversation. The short answer is the assistant planner that we hired, we've moved to different direction. I'll leave it as the short version. It didn't work out, and so we've parted ways. As we're looking forward, I think what we're looking more toward is a more full-time, like community developer / planner, so that we can lessen our reliance on these guys, but bring in, the idea of bringing in somebody that's gonna spin up, I think is we're apprehensive about. So we're looking again at bringing in that position as a full-time staff position, probably rather than an assistant, and then they will use this as overflow to handle it.
Bringing in a full-time planner.
Pardon?
Bringing in a full-time planner.
Do I need to restate it?
I just wanna make sure.
Well, I called it a community development director.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna tell you I'm not nailing down the details of what that's gonna be, but that's what we're looking for, is somebody who already has those qualifications
Of a planner.
of a planner.
Okay. I just wanna make sure.
Okay.
Okay. Jeff?
Is the planning board gonna have any input into how that position's advertised and the qualifications in terms of, that we're looking for, that should be looked at in terms of, what would meet the city's needs in terms, in regards to the professional expertise of a city planner?
I can certainly run the posting through you guys for input before we post it. Is that the request?
Yeah.
Okay, noted.
Would we be involved in the interview process again?
I'm assuming so, but that's 3 decisions away.
Okay.
So,
Why is it assumed and not stated explicitly?
Say one more time?
Why is it assumed and not stated explicitly when that position is dealing with planning issues?
I'm sorry, I missed the question, Jeff.
When you said you assumed that that would be the case, and he's asking why
Oh,
it would not.
if the direction is that that is a planning board position directive, we will do exactly what we've done before.
Okay.
That's
the clarification.
That's the
Okay.
clarification he's looking
Okay.
for.
Okay, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Obviously, you know what our interest is in this.
I do,
Yeah.
and I guess my response, and I didn't mean to be short or pithy, was, why is there an assumption that it would be anything different than it was before, is my question or thought process. So that's,
Well, it was only under your administration that we were involved in the
gotcha.
decision. In previous administrations.
Assuming I'm still alive and I'm still
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
I have every intent, and if we hire a position that's working with you guys directly, you will be involved in the process.
Or whom we're getting direction from.
Yes, and working with, it's your
Yeah.
staff liaison.
Right.
So I apologize, my intent was not to be pithy, and rewind, I'm going, I see where the thing was, but I just kind of missed it. It was, my brain was, of course.
Okay, I just want to make sure,
Okay.
this clarification.
We're good.
All right. Anything else on that particular subject?
The only thing, and I think this feeds maybe a little bit into Jeff's question as well, is in Brian's response that he sent to you guys,
Yeah.
he slightly overstepped in that there is a direction we are pursuing and looking at as far as what that position ultimately looks like. And he was doing his effort to influence by stating it as an already completed and done decision, and it is not.
Yeah.
So that's the missing piece of that triangle, is that it's
Okay.
not we don't have the job description yet. It's not nailed down. It's not finalized. We know something that didn't work, and we're going back to the drawing board. But we know we know what it is we're drawing. It is just not drawn yet.
Okay, Jeff?
But you will be involved in that process.
Teresa, Sandy, Marie, you okay?
So to be clear, the planning board in some capacity will be involved in reviewing the job description and on the selection panel.
Specifically, what will happen is leadership of the planning board will be invited into that. It's ultimately an administrative thing. The reason that I am doing it is the wisdom of having the body that you're working with involved in the
You
interview
added the
process.
word leading, and that's fine. The leading,
And
But
the
this is on the
leadership,
planning board.
and the leadership will communicate
thanks.
directly,
So the planning board will be involved
yes.
in the posting of the job description, review of the job description and selection panel.
Yep. Okay? All right. We move on? Urban renewal, update.
Yeah, I've got quite a little bit, I guess, to report. We met on Monday, and I think we also met after the last, planning board meeting. So probably one of the main topics of discussion over the last two meetings has been, dealing with or discussing expansion of the urban renewal district boundary to incorporate the city property that's on the west side of Highway 78 across from the Alpine Basin development. So we've been kind of wrestling around with that. We had Jeremy provide us an excellent staff overview in terms of what that process might entail and what Montana code allows us to do and not do. One of the things that comes out of that is that we can in fact amend the URD boundaries, but it requires a revision of the urban renewal plan to include any changes in the boundary, and the revisions of the new areas must be designated blighted and appropriate for urban renewal, and these revisions must be done via the council ordinance. So we're kind of just going through those discussions. And the end of the last meeting, we basically requested that planning staff provide us a little bit more detail in terms of what those boundaries might look like and what the resolution might look like, and which amendments need to be incorporated into the urban renewal plan.
Okay.
Well, how to determine that vacant land is blighted?
What's that?
How to determine that vacant land can be termed blighted?
Well, that's gonna be a
Sticky wicket?
a sticky point, I think. Because, yeah,
Mm.
there are, I mean, blight is defined by Montana code, and the current urban renewal plan cited 11 of those conditions as appropriate for the urban renewal boundary, or current urban renewal area. So, yeah, that was some of our discussion at the last meeting on Monday was what qualifies as blight, and becomes kind of a stretch. That's kind of my opinion. Teresa?
Yeah.
So, what I was wondering when I was listening to you, Jeff, is, the idea that, it's not even been developed. So it's not really a blighted area, and that's, you know, what we're discussing at this point. But, in addition to that, I don't know that it would be worth going through the greater trouble of doing that if the owner of the property central to that chunk of city property does not want to swap or sell that property.
Yeah.
It would be much ado about nothing, right? So do we know anything more about the position of that property?
That, we didn't discuss anything relative to the land exchange being discussed, so I can't speak to that at all.
Susan?
Is any of this property contiguous in any place with the part that's already, with the property that's already part of the urban renewal area?
It's just across the highway, so it would be,
So there is a highway in between? Okay.
Dave, do you have anything to add about the status of that property?
Yeah, I do. So that process is actually in process. There's been a resolution of intent. We are in the process of getting, a land comparison, so that process is, that process is in process. It's not done yet.
Okay, Teresa?
Who's we?
The city and the landowner of the little square piece in the middle. Yes.
Together,
Are
okay.
yes, are both involved in that process.
Thank you.
There was an additional follow-up conversation, if I may.
Yeah.
So the 2 meetings ago, we had Jeremy in, and it was basically, can it be edited, and what are the potential advantages or disadvantages, and looks at that. And that meeting kind of focused on, yes, it could be, and there were some specific advantages, not from an increased tax value status, but from, there are some mechanisms when it comes to things that city can do with city-owned property as far as housing developments. There's several different mechanisms that are available. So that was kind of the focus of the first URD meeting. And we all left that meeting, I'll speak for myself, I left that meeting feeling pretty optimistic and pretty hopeful, and feeling like that was the recommendation that would be coming from the group, but it wasn't on the agenda, so it couldn't be. So at this last meeting, the question came in, and it was rightly raised, okay, so it's beneficial, are we within the rules of doing it? And that's where it gets back into this discussion of blight or not. Interestingly enough, I have subsequently had an additional follow-up conversation. I've been working with our legislative representation at the state level, because there's a couple of Senate bills and concerns where they're trying to get rid of TIFs altogether and this, that, or the other. And one of the things that came out of that, which didn't argue a lot with my understanding, because I was on the planning board when the TIF first came forward. In fact, it didn't pass when I was on planning board. It passed after I left, because it felt somewhat contrived and put together with with a purpose and focus in mind, which is why it went up, and it included the Alpine Basin that was gonna be developed, and it included the development down by San, so it was, there was some stuff that was very specifically done to capture finances, so it was contrived for a purpose. And one of the interesting follow-up conversations was, from the legislative's perspective, the sole and only purpose, or the big reason that URDs exist, is just to increase the taxable base.
Right.
And that ultimately that should yield or be represented in therefore either taxes not having to be raised or even the mills being decreased because of that. Which, that line of logic almost gets me back to, if we take an empty lot and we build housing on it that can be taxed, or, you know, that it's an advantageous. But that was the switch between those two is, yes, there's an advantage to do it, but are we getting too creative in using the rules to do so? Jeff, is that a fair qualification?
That's what came out of the discussion on proposed legislation, yeah.
Did I see something that there was an RFP on this, and that has been accepted, or you're gonna have somebody look at it or study it, or is that another piece of property?
I'm not, there's not an RFP on this, and
I may have it confused with something else.
There was a possibility that, without it being part of the URD, part of the process is we would put an RFP out for developers.
Okay.
If it's part of the urban renewal district, we have other options that are also
Okay.
available.
All right. Any other questions, Jeff or Dave?
Yeah, the only other thing was that, yeah, Jeremy did present that there are, other than the ability to use TIF funds, there are, and Dave alluded to it, that there are some additional benefits to being within the URD.
All right.
So, but it will, so that's, the other thing is, I think, and then this kind of dawned on me that today is, any adjustments to the boundaries probably should also come before the planning board and not just before the city council. So,
Right. Okay.
I should have mentioned that the other night at the URD meeting. The other thing that was covered, Jennifer Olson, was on, Zoom and discussed some of the proposed legislation that's gonna be before the legislature this year that could affect, tax increment financing. Some of the bills are positive, and one particularly has potential for some pretty negative impacts. And I won't go into those details. And the other item that's come before the URD is the school district is looking at the city-owned parcel that's along 212, and I can't explain exactly the exact location. I think it's where the U-Haul.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was where all the U-Hauls are parked. There's a small city parcel that stretches down and kind of around the Kroll.
Right.
Is it on Beartooth Lane?
And they're
It's on it's right on the main highway.
Okay.
they're pursuing and exploring some opportunities to develop those parcels to provide, single unit dwelling units for teachers. And that's still just, there's still, and the impetus behind that was that there's a category for low-income housing, but teachers don't fit that category. And they kind of fall out into the gap.
Yeah.
Basically where a lot of us are is middle income that don't qualify for those kinds of subsidized housing. So,
Okay.
so the school board is, and they're primarily because the school is having hard time finding teachers,
Right.
just due to the fact.
And it's not just Red Lodge that's doing that,
Yeah.
school districts all over, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the other thing that's being discussed in the URD, and I think that's pretty much it.
Jeremy, do you want to add anything to that? You attended that meeting, or do we cover it pretty thoroughly?
I don't have anything to add. I think everything was covered.
Right, all
I
right?
have an idea. Why not look into that parcel of land opposite of Alpine Basin and see what its previous use was. I mean, Alpine Basin was included because it was a previous, pit. So perhaps the land on the other side had been a dump or used some way that could declare it as blight. So, I don't know how you would research previous use on that land, but it's an idea.
Okay, anything else on urban renewal?
That's it.
Sandy, council.
The Land Use and Planning Standing Committee got a very thorough update on the airport master plan from, Steve Smith and the mayor. And the mayor and the FAA, Bill Bullock, Lance, who wrote the master plan, will be, meeting tomorrow in a closed meeting to go over the master plan. Right now, the FAA has declined to include our airport in the AIP, which would have given them the ability to get the new runway and clean everything up and make infrastructure improvement. So, it's not quite dead, but it is gasping at this point. Also, I attended the Admin and Finance Standing Committee, because they had an item on there to recommend changes to our short-term rental zoning regulations. And it appears to be two things. One is to take out of zoning all the administrative language, because that's gonna be covered and is covered by our ordinances. And they felt that our definition of short-term rentals was inadequate, and they've used a different one, and we want to be consistent. So that's something we'll probably be looking at in January or February. We did get the yearly report on short-term rentals, and we know that the cap is 20%, and it went from, I believe it was 10.6% down to 10.2%. As expected by all the realtors and property managers in town, that we know that this goes up and down, but, this is the start of proving it. So that's the gist of what was covered.
And I might add that
That's the
once I get a copy of that PowerPoint report, which was very thorough, and also the recommended, changes to the language, I will distribute that to everybody.
And those will be in, council, in chair, president. Al has the last name, Bloomer, mailbox tomorrow, so you guys should all have that before the week is out.
Yeah, whenever I get it, I'll distribute it to you all.
It was very interesting, very thorough.
Yeah.
The only thing that I asked for clarification on is the hotline, had, I believe there were 2 complaints the
One
first
year.
year and 5 the next. What they didn't say is were those complaints on a professionally managed property or an owner managed property? So I did send that request for clarification today, just as an FYI to find out if there's a problem with one versus the other. And there's always going to be complaints.
And anecdotally, it was a split, I can tell you.
Was it? Yeah,
I mean, it's a very small number, but there were,
It was like
I'm
5.
aware of at least one in each,
Yeah.
so.
yeah, no, and we have to expect that. There's always gonna be complaints, basically on parking, noise, and trash. There was one on garbage, only one of the 7, and one on noise of the 7.
Okay.
That's my memory, which we know is false either.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, one thing in that report that stuck out with me as I was taking notes from it is that it showed 1,855 residential units in the city in 2023, and in 2024, it went to 1,910. residential units. So I thought that was a pretty significant jump. I'm not sure how that,
It is, I actually have seen, we've mapped out the last 3 or 4,
Mhm.
but we went 5, 40, 60. I mean, so it's a very significant
I
jump.
knew we were growing, but that number kind of struck me.
I also don't know how much of that will sustain or prove, you know,
Yeah.
there's the crystal ball. We know the
Yeah.
pandemic had an impact on people
Yeah.
moving out of, and there's an element of the world knows we exist.
Yeah. Well, I hope to get that and then and I'll distribute this,
Recommendation.
recommendations. And I didn't want to do it, so I was going to do it together. So as soon as I get them both, I'll get them to you. Hopefully I'll get it before the weekend.
I have them now, so as soon as I have 2 seconds to do it, I can
All right,
send them.
and you're going to send it to me?
I
Okay,
can.
Yeah.
I was just listening to your report, so I thought it would be interesting to, have a review of what we think the airport master plan is among the planning board, especially for purposes of the growth policy.
It's not complete yet, and
Right.
Yeah.
once it is complete, then there's gonna be public meetings, including everybody.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
but they're not complete as of yet.
All right.
It's
We
just
want to
where
see,
they
yeah,
are is
we
what-
we don't want to deal with a draft. We want to see the final.
Right,
Mhm.
right, and so, I don't anticipate we're gonna close the growth policy until we know what the airport's gonna look like, right?
I don't know. I
I
think
don't
that's to be
think
determined. I think one thing we've
How
definitely
quickly
referred to
you
is
think it
to that plan, but I'm not sure if we go into detail, but that's to be determined, I think.
They've already spent 2 years on it. I don't
I
think we
know.
should hold up a growth
Yeah.
policy because of that. We definitely should have
Yeah,
language
I-
in it,
Right,
Yeah,
but not,
we have to make some assumptions then.
okay. Anything else, Cindy?
nope.
Marie, anything from the county?
Yes, one announcement. I will be resigning at the end of this year, and, I have found a replacement. And the commissioners all agreed on that. Marnie Eccles-Bell will be replacing my position here.
What's her name?
Marnie Eccles-Bell.
ECHOLS,
Say again?
ECHOLS dash Bell. I believe Marty's on the, county planning board.
Yeah.
Correct, yes.
Is she the realtor that's on the county planning board?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Okay, she lives in, Belfry or?
I don't know where she lives.
Yeah.
Gulfport?
So is this your last meeting?
I believe so.
Oh,
You guys are
Marie.
gonna miss me.
We are.
Well, we are.
Yeah.
And if I'd have known
It's not
that,
gonna be
we'd,
FUN fun anymore,
we'd have
Al.
bought you a flower or something.
No, that's okay.
No, but seriously, I mean, we
Yeah.
appreciated you being on here, so,
Yeah.
so, all right, so,
Marnie will give you that.
will I get, Marnie's contact information, and so we can get it to Greg and Jeremy and everybody?
Yes, Bill Bullock should have all that. I can actually forward you her number if
You
you'd
send it
like.
to me and
Yes,
I'll
I
get,
will.
okay.
She'll be a good addition to the
Okay.
board.
Well, darn.
She's less mouthy than me. You'll like her.
Oh,
Al.
no.
Inconceivable.
No,
One of your advantages is that you have a business here in town.
yes,
And so we will miss that, even though
Yeah.
Marnie is a realtor.
But she
here,
is
and
business-minded, and she's
business-minded.
she's the county position,
Yeah.
so her and I have had that discussion that you
And
have
she'll
to
stay on the
think through a
county as
slightly
well,
different
right?
lens.
she stay on the county board, planning board.
As far as I know,
Okay.
you'd have to,
Yeah.
maybe pick her.
Because
brain on
Jeremy's
that.
gonna talk about that here in a little bit, but we're starting to make that connect between the two boards, and I certainly wanna continue that. Okay, well, thank you.
Really?
Okay, moving to new business. Dave, there was some issue with ADU and the R3, and there was some staff meetings on that. Do you wanna kinda
Sure, and
summarize where we are and what we're doing?
So there is a standard practice within the city at a high level, that we try to get things done, that we try to figure out how to get to yes, but that we get to yes 100% transparently, 100% within the rules, and 100% in a way that can be duplicated and replicated over and over again. So there was a situation that came to the city, it was actually came in and was approved, last year for what is 2 portable ADUs, but stacked one on top of the other. It's in an R3. And so when it came in and we were kind of double checking the boxes, it came to us pre-approved, but we looked at it and we looked at zoning, we looked at the regulations, and in R3, you are allowed to have a primary, which can be a single unit or a duplex, and then you are allowed an ADU by lot. So there was a question and some confusion we'll need to clean up. I don't think from a state standpoint, if somebody had a duplex and wanted to add an ADU, I don't think we could stop them. And so that's one of the things we're looking at, just make sure we're compliant with the code that passed last year. The error that was made, we kind of had an after action review because it was like, did we dot all the I's? Did we cross all the T's? Did we do everything? And where could this have gone differently? And anyway, the long version short, there is wording that was missed in our zoning that says, not necessarily anyway, the way it went through was the 2 smaller modulars are a duplex, and the existing structure is now the ADU because it's small enough that it meets all the requirements for an ADU. So that was the guise under which it was allowed to proceed and be completed. And going back and looking at it and with some concerns of at what points do we want things like this to trigger a review by the planning board, which ones can we do by the planning board? But as we went through that process, one of the things that we found is it's kind of like the number of units in R3 and R4. The table says one thing, but if you read the paragraph, it says something else. We did find some verbiage after the fact that says the primary unit must be the larger of the 2 units. So square foot wise, while the existing structure on this one down between Hagen and
Is it 214 Hagen?
Okay, so, and it's actually on the back. So if you drive down the street, you probably won't see it, but if you drive down the alley behind it, you will definitely see it. And so even though the duplex is smaller than the primary unit, which is not allowed by our code, but it's an after the fact something that we caught. The secondary portion of that is, as like I said, is if somebody had a duplex on an existing house, I still don't know that we have a solid answer legally whether that would come to planning board or not, because we have to allow an ADU everywhere it is. And so what we probably need to do is update, as we're doing our refresh of our zoning, is just clarify it and make sure that we don't get caught by that again. So that's kind of what we found out from this one is if we had been involved from the get-go and had we seen everything that we saw after the fact, it probably...
There would have been some conditions.
There would have been some conditions, and they might have put them side by side rather than up. And by the way, if they were side by side, it wouldn't stand out to the level that it does.
Yeah.
There's actually a half a dozen different things they could do that would make it where we couldn't have a say if they put a staircase between them and whatnot. But it kind of brought up all the conversations we talked about modular versus ADU, and it's basically which version of code that it adheres to. So I said, I think if we had a time machine and could go back 2 years, that one would have gone down differently than it did. But I think we had some lessons and we identified some things we need to address to make sure we don't have that confusion going forward.
Teresa?
Yeah, I feel like we probably did address this in that committee that we pulled together. We were talking about all these different conditions and, we abandoned it and.
Are you talking about the allowed use committee?
Yeah. Had we not abandoned that, we might have been able to have resolved this in a
Sandy?
better manner, but.
I think this should have been a request to build a duplex on a property.
And that's a permitted use in R3. They don't even have to come to planning board.
Exactly. So I don't think that there is any way to avoid it, because they could have just called it a duplex instead of invoking ADU.
No, that's what they did, is they called it a duplex and proposed that the existing structure
Is now the ADU.
is now the ADU. And the caveat that and then that's how it went down.
And then,
That's how it's
That's how it came to
from the
exist.
beginning.
yeah,
Yeah.
People can
and
be
that
very
turned out to
creative.
be.
And then, but that was not noticing, recognizing to one sentence in there that says the primary structure
Existing,
is
okay.
it didn't say existing, it just says the primary structure is the larger of the two.
I don't need to go way deep on this. I
No.
just want to alert the planning board on it, and Jeff, you want to?
Well, I think you're forgetting one key point about R3, and it's pretty specific in terms of dwelling units. And it says that any dwelling units greater than 3 will come through conditional use.
Yeah.
So
Greater than two, you mean?
Yeah.
greater than.
Greater than 2,
Greater than 3 or more, I guess is the way of.
yeah, it says.
But that's not
anybody
legal.
reasonably reading
Yeah.
that our
Right.
zoning regulations, there's already an existing dwelling unit on
Yeah.
that property. Somebody comes in and asks for,
2 more.
to build a duplex on the same parcel,
That should
automatically,
Yeah.
common sense
Yeah.
says that should go through conditional use review to the planning board.
That's what our zoning said. But
That-
what this
The
whole thing.
legal question is though, and this is where the problem is, that wording is not legal in my interpretation, in that if somebody had a duplex, we cannot do a conditional use before they add an ADU and be in compliance with the state
Okay, but
legislation.
again, and Jeremy and Greg prepared a document which I shared with you all that showed what the state codes are and where our current zoning needs to be consistent with or updated. And what this whole event highlighted is that once we finish the growth policy and the downtown master plan, we're gonna have to go into our zoning policies and make some clarifications, consistencies and so forth. And this particular issue highlighted the need for us to do that. And so that's on our wish list for January. I think hopefully we can get through the master plan in January. And so we're talking probably starting the zoning and sometime in February. But that's what this highlighted. There was some inconsistencies between local and state. There was some inconsistencies within our own document that was clarified, but Jeff's point is the one that struck me when I saw it. It was very clearly that anything greater than 2 units. And however you call them, that was 3 units on it, so.
Well, but they could very easily
Yeah.
turn that into a single unit that happens to be 2 floors.
Well,
A
but
doorway
that's not the way it was
and stairs
presented.
Right,
And so
but,
that's what triggered everything.
agreed.
I'm not getting into the what ifs and couldas and shouldas, but I mean, the way it was presented was 3 units. And that's, yeah,
That's my point.
that's the point. So I wanted to bring the planning board up to speed with all that process and lessons learned, but it did highlight some areas that Jeremy and, yeah.
I'd like to make one more comment. I think Jeremy did an excellent job in terms of the staff report.
Yeah,
And that this is what, as a member of the planning board, it's the quality that I would expect to come from our planning staff. Contrasting that with when the planning board was presented with a similar hypothetical last February, without any background knowledge, without any presentation into the pros and the cons of what our zoning regulations are, just throw it out there and say, would this be allowed?
yeah.
I just want to compliment and thank Jeremy for the good staff report that he presented
Yeah,
to us for that meeting.
and that's it,
And that's
yeah,
the standard
yeah.
that
And you
I
all
think
got a
we
copy of that,
need
right?
to adhere
you got that right.
Any staff reports too, is that kind of
Yeah.
thoroughness in terms of, if a hypothetical is gonna be presented to the planning board, not just pull it off out of thin air and here, what do you think?
Yeah.
Here's what I wanna see is, what does our zoning say? What's consistent with Montana code? Where can we improve and clarify our zoning? So, thanks, Jeremy.
Okay.
Greg also had a good part in that as well, so, but yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because the authors on it were you and Greg, and I did distribute that to everybody, so that was,
Thanks to Craig as well.
all right. So, lessons learned. Okay. Okay, Jeremy, I appreciate your patience. We're going to, old business now, continue with the, draft of the growth policy. I'm not sure what your plans were, but if possible, I would like you to kind of summarize where we are on our, proposed future land use map and maybe include in that, our discussions with the county. So Jeremy, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was kind of my plan, was to do the future land use map discussion first and then dive into the document. So,
And I think everybody has a hard copy of it as well, so.
okay. So, yeah, so we had our meeting with the county planning board. I thought it was a very good meeting. We kind of just, initially just did a short, very short presentation with the planning board to kind of outline with them what our intentions were for this future land use map, and in an effort to cooperatively plan the area around the city of Red Lodge within that 1 mile buffer zone. I thought the Forrest Mandeville, the county planner, also, assisted that discussion. I thought we worked really well together with him to explain this to the county planning board. Overall, again, it was a really good discussion that we had with them. They were very receptive to this, to the future land use map. Initially, we kind of started getting into the weeds a little bit on specific properties and, stuff like that. But by the end of the discussion, it really got down to the idea that, it's a benefit to the county to expand services outside of the city of Red Lodge. And in order to do that, we need the future land use map. And it really got to the point of identifying, well, we really need the higher density district, or not district, but higher density designation in a few more spots to plan for where growth should go. So it's city style development with city services. And so when I zoom in on this map, the primary changes were, let me see if I can just, were this location here. We expanded before we had high density residential in this location. And based on the county planning board responses and discussion, it was kind of looked at as, hey, let's, kind of expand that high density residential, into these areas out 78. Because that's.
Hey, Jeremy, we've got a question real quick.
Just to interject,
Marie.
since we're talking about that right now, and I just happen to live there. Just in your explanations down here in the legend, high density residential, it needs to be less than 5 acres, not less than 1 acre. Just a small correction. Because then you have the low density residential, which is between 5 and 20 acres. My lot out there by itself is 2.5 acres. You see what I'm saying? It's just a correction in the legend.
Well, so medium density, so you have low density, which is 5 to 20 acres. Then we have medium density, which is 1 to 5 acres.
Well, then you need to change that to medium density.
Actually, the medium density that you've highlighted is Grandview, Grandview South, and Woodlands on Rock Creek. In Grandview and Grandview South, the largest lot is like 0.76 acres. So all of those in Grandview and Grandview South, that's adjacent to Remington Ranch Road, all of those are less than 1 acre.
And all of ours that you have listed in red are more than 1 acre. And then there's
Well,
also
I
some.
mean, we could take this development out of there. Again, this was just discussion with the county planning board on, you know.
I don't, however you want to keep it, it's just they're
The
errors.
legend.
Well, it's not an error in the legend if you have medium density residential.
No,
Either you
so
change-
I don't think we want so anything that's gonna be on city services is gonna be high density. It's gonna be less than an acre lot, right? Because you're putting in water and sewer services, you're putting in roads to city standards. You can't do that with 1 acre plus lots. It's not feasible, it's not cost effective. So anything that's gonna have city style development with city services is going to be less than 1 acre lots.
Well, I understand that, but where I live is 2.5 acres along with all of the other people in my subdivision. It's incorrect. So if you don't care, I don't care, but I'm just telling you, the map is wrong.
Well, so this is a future land use map, not an existing land
You're
use map.
showing the county, I don't want you to look like you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that's why, this is a future land use map, though.
But
It's not,
what, all of these lots are, maybe I'm not being clear. All of the lots in my subdivision are between 2.5 to 3 acres. Like
are you talking about this one right here?
Acres.
I can't.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Also, that you have there, if you want to be more correct, you have Baldwin's behind me, which is commercial, which should be purple.
So, I mean, this is your land use map, so you guys make whatever I'm just showing you what we talked about with the county. So, whatever changes you guys want to make, we'll make, right? So, the other change that we made was we had this identified as residential on this side of the highway, and the county planning board suggested maybe making this side of the highway commercial, future land use commercial. So those were the two, really the only two changes that were made, were those two areas. Again, this is your future land use map, and I'm just trying to present what was kind of talked about with the county planning board. You can make whatever changes you want.
Moving forward, if it's incorrect, that is a gateway for somebody to say, hey, this isn't even how it needs to be. I mean, honestly, like, I'm just stating because I live there.
So your suggestion
not what
is
we
in the
discussed.
pink area, Marie, high-density residential should be less than what, 2
5.
acres?
5 acres.
I'm not telling him to change his definition
No.
down here, but if he,
No,
either he changes the definition in the legend, or he changes the
Okay,
colors
so
up on the map.
If in the legend, what would be your recommendation on high-density residential, less than what?
5 acres.
Less than an acre.
And that's what it,
And then medium density residential would be between 1 and 5 acres. That would be the definition of my subdivision.
that's what he's got here though, isn't it?
No, he does not. It's all red.
So Al, what I just put up on the
He's got
screen,
8 acre lots.
Oh,
what I
okay.
just
It
put up
doesn't
on the screen, I
Neither
just
does-
I just noted to change this existing development to medium density residential.
And then what do you do with the commercial that's behind us? Because do you want to
Where's
change that?
where's the commercial at?
There's actually 2 of them. How to describe, it's so tiny, it's hard to describe, but there are 2 commercial lots
Right against the left lower edge of the
curve.
the block of.
Right on the highway?
Right on the highway.
And then there's
and
also
then
right behind it.
inside,
Mhm.
right
You're right,
adjacent to
along
it,
the
just to
whole,
the east of it.
because there's that propane deal.
The propane deal is right on the highway, and adjacent to it to the east is the
So is
Baldwin.
So is
So,
Baldwin.
okay, let's be clear here.
I mean, it's tiny.
Where he has his arrow, is that the commercial or is it in the lower left?
I can't see.
See where his arrow is?
He's gonna have to make that gigantor.
when you're talking to the county, I'm trying to save you for later because they'll correct you there.
See where his arrow, is that what, the commercial place right there?
No, yes, that's Baldwin's, where the arrow is.
Okay,
And then up above Baldwin's is, what is that, Silver Tip Propane, I wanna say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so where he's got the arrow there in that little box, you
Arrow,
think that
and
should be
then
purple?
that big piece of land above it is purple.
Where he's got his hand?
Mm-hmm.
This,
You want me to go point it out? I don't know if he can see it.
I don't know
from
that
now.
he would,
Oh, okay. Unless,
I can take.
unless you look done. I don't know if you wanna be, you know,
Exactly.
exact or correct, I just know
Well,
that that's all.
I can tell you this, that the general input, and Jeremy, tell me if I misinterpreted it, was the county board wanted us to go to medium and high density for a variety of reasons. They thought 5-acre lots was, you know, too big for, individual homes. They really wanted to, thinking about multiple housing units and all that kind of stuff.
even when they kept the big lots, they talked about cluster development.
Yeah.
So there would be 5-acre lots, but everyone would build, you
Yeah.
would build an inside so that you could protect ag
Yeah.
in the
But I'm
area.
talking about property that's already bought, like
Yeah.
my
And
piece
built.
of property, and built, and
With
done.
Existing.
so I think that's fine. I think we can put this to medium density residential. I think we can show commercial on this side. We'll
Okay.
just double check with the cadastral information that these are commercial lots and just double check
Okay.
which ones are. I think these parcels right here were the important ones because they're vacant, currently vacant property that could be developed into, you know, city style subdivisions. And so I
Right.
think keeping these properties, you know, this kind of core as high density was the important piece of this that we talked about with the county planning board, to, you know, have a place for city style development to go outside of the city limits.
So, with the amendments that we just, Sandy and Marie talked about, are we all right with the other adjustments?
You know, if in fact, in 5 years, we go ahead and use this land use map because we want to annex something, is there any reason we can't just change the map at that point?
You can change the map whenever you want. So it's just like a growth policy or any other document. You can amend it whenever you want to amend it.
So I have a hypothetical. What if somebody bought 10 acres from Draper's, which is the red area that you have in that plot of land behind the commercial that you got there? What if they bought that and then they wanted to build a house and a shop or whatever? Do they go through the county would they go through the county planning board for that?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Or
So-
do they come here also then at that point?
No,
Never
no.
come-
So this
never
does
come
not, the city has no jurisdiction outside the city limits.
I'm just giving hypothetical because these are real life.
The way it works is, this is a map for future planning, that if somebody wants to build something within the county lands, it goes to the county, but because it's within this 1 mile thing, the county might inform us and ask us if we have an opinion or recommendation. We have no authority.
But what if it's listed as high density from the county and somebody unknowingly buys for cash from the Drapers 10 acres?
That's
That's
the
not-
county.
It's not listed as high density for the county. This is a city planning document. It's not a county planning document. So this has no,
For clarification.
This is all under the jurisdiction of the county,
Of the city.
and,
Oh, you mean,
no,
yeah.
of the
Of
county.
the county.
It doesn't
All
change.
the county.
And all this is based on what we know today,
Mhm.
is what we think some of these parcels might be zoned as, potentially.
What makes sense
Yeah.
for development?
This is not the document, it's just an idea.
and the county
Correct.
has no obligation to use this map at all. This is
Yeah.
a city planning document, not a county planning document.
And we went to the county just to see if we were kind of on the same page, and we were. In fact, they in fact, it was interesting, they really went real deep. They wanted, and they were talking about specific lots and here and there, and we kind of, like we did when we first started. And then, but the message I got from them, more than any other, was they wanted high density, medium density, potential there for whatever, you know.
They wanna know where to park subdivisions too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where-
Yeah.
And they were very, if I may, they were very, it was not an antagonistic conversation at all. It was very embracing, and thanks for inviting us, and we'd love to give you our input and thoughts and comments. So they had every bit as much of a, and it really was. In fact, I was sitting back next to Alan, and I was like, oh, look, they're going down the same thing. The details, and then here's lot X, and owner this, and what if Bob sells to Jody, and blah, 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 sort of a thing. And their planner brought them into, let's go back to, but they were very embracing of the idea of let's work together and plan. And to Al's point, they were, we need to push our higher density development closer to the city coming out, as opposed to spot developing out in the county.
Because we cannot possibly, provide
So
water.
Jeremy, can you make those, adjustments that Marie and Sandy, suggested, and then we can finalize this map?
Yes, I think Kevin's
Oh,
on, so,
got another
yep.
question here. Well, maybe I spoke too soon. Jeff?
Well, I want to revisit this idea of commercial versus community entrance. And I look at both the area on the south along 212 and then also north. And I guess I drove down the south end, and basically it's a mix of residential, pretty much all residential on the east side of the highway for that 1 mile. On the west side, it's a mix, starting with Pilates, construction yard, Forest Service ranger stations, the city shop, and Leach's Auto. From then on out, it's residential, low density residential. And I think, and I look, kind of look closely at the same 212 going north. That's very constrained. It's also basically existing high or medium density residential. So I guess my argument is that rather than identifying those areas as commercial, I would like to see them labeled as community entrance with mixed use, and that goes back to the discussion and the description that's the narrative that's in the growth policy as well. So that's my recommendation.
So you would keep the purple where it is, but you would just change commercial to mixed use, community entrance?
No, actually, it'd be adding one more category.
Oh, okay.
So the commercial, because that is existing commercial as it's designated on this map. What I'm talking about is the strips along Highway 212. And identifying those as community entrance to stay in keeping with how the city has identified the entrances to the community, to the Red Lodge community as community entrance. And my rationale for that is it really goes back to the 1995 master plan and all the subsequent growth policies that we have had, and we've been those have been very explicit in terms of why we're using that terminology in terms of community entrance versus commercial. And it all has to do with keeping the uniqueness of Red Lodge as a small community where the central businesses and central commercial activity is occurring downtown. So, the current language that's in our growth policy is, citizens of Red Lodge and surrounding area care about the visual approaches and appearance and of the entrances, provides a sense of place based on the historic character and a focus on the central business district. It protects the attractiveness of mountain views, and the attractiveness of community entrances kind of is essential to the health of the local resort economy. Those are the things that attract people to Red Lodge, whether you're on a permanent basis or traveling. And one of the other kind of key phrase that has been part of that discussion has been kind of defining what makes it unique, is that travelers, basically, you've come home when you come to the outskirts of Red Lodge. You're not met with this strip of commercial development that's typical of almost any town that you can visit. And you can just look at Laurel as a prime example of, is that what we want our community entrances to look like? Is that commercial strip typical of what you see in Red Lodge so that's my rationale, is to basically set the stage to have a conversation about how we want our community entrances to look in the future, and to be consistent with the city's growth policy in terms as it's related to the community, to the direction in our community entrances as well. So
to summarize, that part that's marked purple along 212 north and south, you would just change the color of that, those two areas, and label it community entrance mixed?
but it's community entrance, and then the description would talk about mixed use,
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
as it currently does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had similar thoughts, because I remembered picking up the phrase about avoiding the strip malls and entering into the town and seeing all that. And we've gone to such great lengths to create the URD to get rid of blight, and here we'd be potentially introducing it on the way into town. So
you agree with,
it makes sense to
you agree
me,
with
yes.
Jeff?
And I remember commenting on that last time we reviewed this about the south, so I agree on both north and
Sandy?
south.
Well, first off, on the south, he's
Yeah.
only highlighted the area to the west of the highway, not
Yep.
to the east.
Yeah,
And I would actually suggest shortening it. You can see how wide it is. I would, where it narrows down, I would cut that off and then mark the rest of that green. So I would
cut it off right below the 212 sign?
A little bit above the 212.
Okay.
I would cut that off there and not extend it all the way down, for
Yeah.
sure.
Make it, and make
Green.
that green?
Yep. And I would do the same with the north, is I would also cut that down, probably where it widens. I wouldn't have that much of the mixed use, north and south. I would have some, but not that much. That's an awful lot. I mean, that's a whole mile on the north.
Jeff?
Yeah, no, I agree with reducing the linear.
Teresa?
Yes, I do.
Marie?
Yeah.
Susan?
Yes.
Okay, Jeremy, have you got that? We want to add a different category in the legend to include community entrance with a different color. And it would go in the north from the city limits to where it kind of broadens there. Right there, yep. And then that purple would become blue, Sandy, or green? Blue.
On the south, it would go green.
It'd be green?
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the south, we'd cut it off.
I mean, at the north.
No, I'm
No.
talking the south now.
Okay.
The south, we cut it off right at the 212 sign right there.
Above the 212.
Yeah. And that bottom part would become green. Is that right, Sandy?
Yes.
Teresa?
Much better.
Marie? Suze? Jeff?
Yep.
Okay, you got that, Jeremy?
Got it.
Any comments?
Nope,
Chicken.
I'm good with that.
No, I mean, yeah, okay. All right, any other changes? I'd really like to wrap this one up tonight if we could.
Since this is something that is in the future to start with,
Yeah.
number one. And number
Okay.
two, we can change at will, so.
Jeremy, so can we make those changes and then call it good, please?
Yep, that'll be in the, that'll be in the, final draft for review.
All right, thank you. All right, I'd like to, anything else, Jeremy, or can we move to the document?
I'm good on the future land use map.
Okay, so we're gonna start at, public facilities. And actually, when I went through here today, I didn't notice a lot of edits. Jeremy, you wanna take the lead?
Yep. So yeah, so I start up public facilities and infrastructure. I see the only comment here, is from Al. Should the city pool be included in the review? Yes, if that, is that a public facility?
Page 49.
Thank you.
Is the city pool a city facility?
Yes,
Then it should be included, yes.
and so you would include it where? Just,
Let's see. Well, initially it should be included in that first sentence,
okay,
for sure. And then we can work with Kevin and see if there's anywhere else that needs to be added. But initially it needs to be, especially in that first sentence.
okay.
Yeah, so we'll work with Kevin and make sure it's added where it needs to be added. There was no comments. It didn't look like in the city water systems section that I see. Just going down through here. So just stop me if I'm missing something. In the water rights section, do not see any comments there. So down in water resources, looks like there is a comment here from Jeff. The plan was updated in 2022 and is now the 22 land management plan for Custer Gallant National Forest. Supervised direction for Magdalena Water. We can work with Kevin and just get that updated to make sure we capture what's in the 2022 land management plan.
That's my main point. There is no, a 1995 Custer National Management Plan no longer exists.
Okay. Yeah, no, we'll work with Kevin to get that updated and make sure we capture that in here for sure. Looks like
it still contains or references the West Fork Rock Creek as the municipal watershed. So that part is still correct, but
just this reference to the plan just needs to be updated.
yeah.
Okay, can do. Next comment. Oh, looks like it was from Kevin. The link was removed because it was a dead link. So I don't know. We have this Red Lodge Source Water Delineation Assessment Report by DEQ in 2003. We have it referenced just by name.
Okay.
See, so, okay, going down through here, we're down into sanitary sewer system. Of course, Great West, I think, did a lot of this stuff for the city of Red Lodge, so hopefully all this is accurate. Sanitary system additional needs. Stormwater system. Yeah, I'm not seeing any comments in these sections, so if you
No.
see,
I saw most of this as all kind of regurgitating what was already there, or didn't see many changes.
yeah, I mean, it looks like there's updated references to 2020 stormwater PER and that sort of thing. So I think all those references have been updated to current documents, it looks like to me. So we're down in sidewalks. I don't see anything.
I would point,
Hold it, I got a comment here. Go ahead, Sandy.
I would point out where it says many areas of the city lack sidewalks and many existing sidewalks are in disrepair. And the city's in the process of repairing all the sidewalks on Broadway. So it would be nice to have some notation in there as well. Someone reading our growth policy would think that we don't care about our sidewalks at all. And we kinda do.
Do you want a more positive statement?
I'd like a more positive statement. Thank you.
Can we
Got
do
that.
that, Jeremy?
Got that, Kevin?
Commercial area.
Okay. Yep, we'll get something added in as a second sentence there saying the city is currently working on projects to improve sidewalks on Broadway and yeah.
That'd be great.
Yep. No, I think that's good. Okay, we're down in streets, avenues, and alleyways. I don't see any comments. Snow plowing, don't see anything.
No.
Solid waste and recycling, it looks like we've got updates to,
I think we might be missing a comment from Teresa on that. That was, the city needs to develop a solid waste management ordinance and plan. We don't have one. I don't think it's showing on that one, but I got it in front of me for some reason.
under solid waste.
And so I don't know if we had listed that at all under any of our services for objective or action. I don't think we did. So if we're not gonna add it somewhere else, but I don't know if it's appropriate to say here that this is something the city should be striving for. Something that describes our solid waste and recycling management. We don't have anything.
Yeah.
And we can't we could apply for grants to supplement what we have if we had a management plan.
Yeah.
So it's something that most cities have that we don't.
So what's your edit?
I don't know if it helps to describe, I mean, this is our growth policy, right? Do we ever envision having a solid waste and recycle, a management plan? Do we want to say that here?
Jeremy, you have
I
a
mean,
thought?
it doesn't hurt to have it in here. Just because it's in here doesn't mean you have to do it, but at least if it's in here, it's, part of a list or action plan. So I would say in the first part of that first paragraph at the end, just say, the city should work on preparation of a solid waste and recycling management plan or something like that. And then we need to go back up to the action items and just make sure we have that kind of outlined in that services section. Make sure we have something in there for that.
Well, we have a lot of growth, we have a lot of trash, and we have a lot of bears, so I think it makes sense to put it in there.
I agree.
Can we say the city is, or can we say the city should?
No, we should say should. The city should prepare a solid waste management recycling plan.
And then add that to as in the action plan tables.
Yep. Yep, we'll do that. Okay. We good with solid waste?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have a street classifications map. I don't see any comments here.
Or additional municipal services, we have some comments.
Okay, let me get there. Okay, we have the county has GIS software and employee trained in it. Perhaps the city could explore partnering with the county for these services.
Oh,
We have someone,
so, yeah, we talked about this before. I mean, we have I don't know if we still have, I don't know if anybody checked into it, but we had 3 seats on the county licenses for the city's use, city staff to
Yeah.
use GIS. So,
Well,
I don't know,
Yeah, I think we did talk about it in action items, on, if I recall, didn't we, Kevin? I believe we talked about, GIS and training, in the goals and objectives and action items.
so I don't know that we have enough information as a planning board to say what's what here, and I would believe that information lies somewhere between an agreement we have with the county and Tom Coley and Mike Maple. So like, who's using what and what is needed? I don't know.
So if I can't, the action item that we had for that was review and if needed, obtain a geographic information license through the software company Environmental Systems Research Institute, or ESRI, to be used in city asset management.
Right.
Okay.
So that would cover it.
We already, this is
That would-
basically
that'd
what
be-
we already came up with,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So you've added that in there, right? I see that here.
Correct.
Okay.
And anecdotally, I can add that we do use it, so.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah, we do.
we used it for the tree inventory.
So
I see a couple
Jeff,
comments here from Jeff.
Jeff also had I think we covered the GIS one.
Yeah. Right.
Jeff, also had a comment, do we need to mention a review of a permit process for larger events to ensure additional costs for police and other services?
Is that covered under our land
City
use?
should
That's
enforce
recently
policies
been
which
done.
Yeah,
That has recently been done. They reviewed the permit process.
What were you thinking there, Jeff? Do you think it needs to be in the growth policy?
Well, if there's been some work done on that, so maybe adding a sentence that, continue to,
yes, yeah.
What if we just said the city should continue to review and enforce policies to ensure large events are safe and appropriately managed? Would that work?
Yeah,
That works for me.
that would work, yes.
especially 'cause things
Okay.
keep changing.
So back on GIS, I think my other comment had, or my other thought relative to that is there financial benefit to the county and city continuing to share a license? And I don't know,
Mhm.
if that's stated that way or not, but, yeah, it does say here, possibility of creating a memorandum of understanding between the city and county to utilize the county's existing,
It would be good to have clarification.
yeah, I guess that covers it, basically.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think you're covered.
I think we're good, Teresa.
Okay,
Okay.
looks like
Move
there's a
on to the
comment. What?
Move on to the airport here. Is this where we reference the, interagency plan?
Well, there's an interlocal and then there's an airport master plan.
Do we reference that here or not?
Correct, yes, this is where we would want to reference that airport master plan that's being developed. I think per our previous discussions, I think we take this map out of here. And we just reference the forthcoming airport master plan, or we'll have to work on the wording, but I think that'd be the best option, because I don't think you want to have information in here and then have different information in that plan that possibly contradicts each other, or, it doesn't make sense to duplicate that.
Can, I asked Dave, can you provide him with some acceptable wording?
So, yeah, and more importantly, after tomorrow, I will know, because we're meeting with the FAA to find out
Yeah.
if there's going to be a master plan, if they're gonna call it done and not completed, if we have a meeting with them specifically to find out what it is that's going to be. They've stepped in and started running the gambit. So we've got a meeting with them tomorrow, and I'll have a better idea following that.
So I've got a note here that then, once following that meeting, you'll provide some wording to Jeremy
Yep,
to go in here,
I'm
and
good with
we've agreed as a planning board to take this map out.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did.
Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. All right.
Huh.
We're down into natural and cultural resources.
Hold it, we got a question here.
Okay,
I guess the question on the airport is, we've had this airport overlay in our zoning document. Is it appropriate to reference or allude to the fact that, we've had an airport overlay to protect the, approaches to the
RPZ.
Airport?
yeah, if you have that overlay district in your, yes, I think that would be appropriate to add that in.
Can you supply him with that, Dave?
yeah, that's
The
part
current-
of our existing zoning, so.
The current map?
Yeah, the RPZ and our existing stuff is all in existing.
Okay, so that'll be part of what you send him?
It'll
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
also be part of
Yeah,
that.
I mean, we can get that out of the existing zoning too, so we can
Okay.
work with Kevin and get that language
I'm
added.
sorry, Sandy, I didn't hear you.
It should also be, it'll be part of the master plan as
Yeah.
well.
Okay. All right,
Okay. Okay, we're down into natural and cultural
wait,
resources.
we're still here. Hang on, Jeff.
Well, I just want to clarify, the reason I mentioned that is because the master plan is kind of in a state of flux.
Yeah,
But our airport overlay is an existing document in existing direction.
Yeah.
So that's why I brought it up.
yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, John, are you still with us in all this?
Yes, sir.
Are you, okay. Speak up if you need to.
Oh, well.
All right, moving on to natural and cultural resources.
Okay, first page here, looks like we got a comment from Jeff. It is designated as the Beartooth National Forest Scenic Byway and All-American Road. Yep, we can make that change.
Okay,
No problem there. Looks like we got a comment here from Jeff. Insert after flooding event to restore or protect the floodplain, accommodate natural stream function and create more open space. So yeah, we can add that language to that sentence. I think that's good language. Kevin and I and Greg have kind of talked about that already. We kind of met last week to discuss some of these comments and action items. So I think that goes along with that discussion.
That sentence, I'm kind of curious on that sentence. Says there is interest in the community for the city to acquire properties that were damaged in the 2022 flooding event, create more open space. The city, there were lots of properties that were damaged, and this kind of leads to more than the two that we were talking about, one of which we've already acquired, and the other one is just, it's still in talks, so I don't know, there are specific properties, not just acquire properties that were damaged.
In other words, it's not a general goal.
It's
There
not a
there are a
general
couple of
goal.
targeted objectives.
Yeah, so,
Say acquire a few specific properties, right? Or, I don't,
if you could add the word specific or targeted,
few.
Or
even
selected
to
property.
Andy's point, the city has acquired one property and is pursuing an additional
Yeah.
property.
right?
but
That
just
would be
one.
the accurate, and it's a singular.
Can we clean up that?
Yeah, so
word?
we could add a sentence in front of us that says the city has already acquired a property damaged in the 2022 flooding event. And then the next sentence would be the city, maybe we take out interest in the community, maybe we say the city is looking at acquiring an additional property.
Or remains open to acquiring.
Yet remains open to acquiring an additional property, one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That was damaged in the 2022 flooding event, and then we'll add Jeff's.
Yeah.
And I think if you go that open to acquiring, you don't even necessarily have to limit it to one. I think there's only one that practically fits into that. But if there was another property that the Fed suddenly said they wanted to buy and give to us, we'd take it.
Yeah, so I
Sure,
would
no,
leave
that
it
makes
open.
sense.
I wouldn't be specific. I would leave it open.
Yeah, we
Yep.
we remain open to acquiring additional.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, can
Okay.
do.
Susan
All
had
right,
a comment?
what's that?
Susan had a comment on the next paragraph.
Yep, I see that. So, recently changed the name to Beartooth Trails with assistance from the
Yep.
city. They have repaired. Okay, and it looks like it maybe was already changed to Beartooth Trails. So I think that comment's been addressed. Was your intent to, add in this additional information on the work that they've done as well?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Maybe to call them their current name.
Okay, all right,
Because
yep,
they're really fluid, so to be specific here, I think we're in the danger of leaving something out.
okay, no, I agree. I just wanted to make sure I understood her intent of the comment, so.
Yeah.
I agree with that. All right, moving to the next page, we got a comment from Jeff. Important additions to the trail network would, connectivity from the west bench. So it looks like you're asking for just some expansion of, or addition of a couple sentences there, Jeff, to kind
I
of
think-
capture what your comment there is.
I think it was just more agreeing with that, the city and county, the importance of opportunities for trail easements. I just mentioned those as areas where there's opportunities, whether, to expand the trail network. I don't know that needs to be clarified at this point, but that was just I think basically my comment was, if anything, just reference the ATP.
Yep.
And Parks and Trails Plan.
So just add a reference to the ATP and Parks and Trails plan. We can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. All right, moving through, looks like we're on Parks Board.
Yep.
We got a comment, Parks and Trails need to be adequately funded. This could be accomplished through a combination of grants. We should spell out a need to staff to pursue grant opportunities.
He just added more specificity to that paragraph.
So basically just you're asking for us to basically just add a sentence on there that says the city will work to pursue grant funding opportunities for parks and trails?
Right.
Yeah.
Something like that? Okay.
Should it be the city or the Parks Board?
Well, probably both, probably city and parks board. I mean, the city ultimately would be the applicant on any grants,
The
not the parks.
pockets under the Parks Board, but the city funded it.
Initiate it, draft it, do all that work, and then have the city.
Yeah, I just didn't wanna say that we should spell out a need to staff, to the staff to pursue the grant opportunities.
Well, I think if we just say the city and parks board, or city and or parks board, something like that.
Yeah.
Then I don't think we specifically say city staff. I think we just say the city and or parks board.
City working with Parks Board to identify and.
Yep, something like that. I think that works. Okay. Looks like we have a comment on our 2015 parks plan, and inventory to all city-owned lands right away has been completed.
Could we back up?
Yeah, we gotta back up here. Go ahead,
Oh.
Teresa.
Sure.
The urban forestry plan was adopted in 2018, forestry management plan, not 2009.
Okay. 2018. It's like Kevin's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, going back to comprehensive parks.
Going back to parks.
Yeah, that's where you were when we backed
Oh,
up.
yeah, okay, yep. All right, let's see. so let me see, what's your, I guess, if you want to expand on your comment here, Jeff? Are you asking for us to add something in here?
I think, let me read this first paragraph just to refresh my mind quickly. Yeah, I guess one of my comments was that inventory has been complete. The inventory that talks about in that second sentence has been completed.
Okay, so here. Okay,
And that it included access points along Rock Creek, including right-of-way access across points along Rock Creek.
okay, so we can update that, and then maybe what we do is add a sentence in here that the city should work with the Parks Board to move forward with the recommendations from the completed assessment, something like that?
Yes.
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 Okay. Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Okay, Jeff?
Okay, I see we're down in active transportation plan. I don't see any. So this was the Parks and Trails map that we had already kind of talked about. I don't know if we got an updated map yet from Kevin. Did we get an updated map on this yet?
Not yet. Matt
thought we
Classic has still been working on it. He's been switching the colors. I don't know. I think he finished it this week. But he's trying to address all the comments and switch all the colors up and make it a little bit more readable from the last time that we discussed it. So I'll have that sent out probably tomorrow, if that works, and you can disseminate that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and we'll make sure
Or just
that,
wait till the next round.
What I would do is include it with the final draft.
That sounds good.
that's what I was thinking too, Al.
Because we're gonna briefly review the final draft sometime in January, so if there,
Right.
and we've reviewed most of the maps, but on this particular map, you were gonna get input from the trails and Tom Coley and other places as well, right?
I think you already
Yep,
got it.
that's correct.
Correct.
Yeah. So I wouldn't send it separate, Kevin. I would just include it with Jeremy in the final draft,
Sounds good.
okay?
All right, so we're down in climate, energy conservation, and sustainability section. Looks like we got a comment from Jeff. Mentioned the Solarize project 3 or 4 years ago. Financing by Caribbean County.
And the CPACE program is up for review again in January by the city council.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
think that part in CPACE could mention that the city is in the process
In the process
of adopting
of
CPACE.
adopting the CPACE.
By the time this document is real, it will have been adopted, so just
Yeah.
put it there with a flag to make sure it comes to be. And the city has done some solar projects already, it added some additional solar projects and stuff that could be. And we
Okay, yeah.
we consider that in all decisions.
Yeah, we can update this section to add some discussion on the Solarize solar projects and that program. So I think we can add a couple sentences in there for sure.
Did you also reference, the sustainability plan?
Oh, I think you do underneath, right?
The 2017 Montana.
Speak up, I can't hear you.
Oh, I think you do up above that. ECP, Energy Conservation Plan is.
It's at the bottom of the page there.
Yeah, it's right here in the last section.
I see it, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yep. Then Jeff had a comment, add and 2021 Greater Yellowstone Climate Assessment.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, we can add that in addition to the Montana Climate Assessment. So that's a good add. Let's see, we've got looks like Kevin, you have a comment in here. Did you want to expand on that?
Yeah, can you expand that? Looks like it's cutting off a little bit.
Oh,
That
no.
was a
I
Jeff
guess-
comment.
No, sorry. No, this one. No? Where, I just saw it. Oh, no, this
Yeah,
is, sorry,
it
this
was
is a Jeff comment, sorry. It's the Greater Yellowstone Assessment mentions with warmer springs, the possibility of more rain or snow. So are you just asking for just expansion on drought and fires, just add some additional information in there? Looks like. Jeff?
I think, no, I don't think, I mean, the fact that you referenced the climate assessment is sufficient.
Should be
I
good
think-
enough.
I
Okay,
think-
no, that's great.
No.
All right, next comment, Jeff, it might be worth mentioning in 2023, Beartooth Front Community Forum hosted a forum. The outcome of the discussion and comments was to begin discussion about expanding the ECP to include the community. In addition, expand discussion. Yeah, I think we can add some
Do we
discussion.
need that detail in here of what we've done?
No, I don't think so. I think I just mentioned that
Yeah,
as background.
I put a question mark on that. Is growth policy is looking forward and this statement is looking back?
Right.
So, Jeff?
So are we good on that then?
He's still thinking about it.
Oh, I think, the intent of my comment there was that, the energy expanding in the future, opportunities to expand the energy conservation plan to include more than just, city-owned property,
Oh, yeah,
to
residential.
provide opportunities for residences to participate.
Yeah, residential.
So that
and
was,
commercial, yeah.
that's the gist of my comment, would maybe be just add the sentence that, there may be opportunities in the future to extend or update the ECP to extend beyond just city-owned property.
Yeah, or to include projects and opportunities for residences and commercial.
You got that, Kevin? Just.
Yep.
All
Yeah,
right.
we got that. We can add a sentence in there on that.
Okay.
Okay?
And that next sentence that says, since the plan was adopted, several energy efficient improvements such as window replacements, LED retrofits, and increased installation have been implemented at City Hall, Police Station, and Public Workshop. There's also a new, plan to increase the efficiency, energy conservation. Well, we're hoping that we'll probably know in a couple of weeks, really. The plan to replace everything in the second floor here, more than windows and all of that, but it would be all of the wiring and, insulation and air conditioning and heating system, so that it's all energy
So
efficient.
the projects listed within the ECP are ongoing, basically, right?
Yeah.
So just include the city offices in the list.
Yeah, in other words, they have done some, but more is planned. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. ECP.
To get that, Jeremy, just include the
Well, we're always
city
looking
offices
what
as an
they've
update
done.
plan.
Yeah, we can add some language in there.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right.
so
right.
we're down to wildland urban interface. I don't see any comments. Under wildland, potential for wildland fire, I see a comment here. Jeff. Not sure about this statement. Need to make a distinction between riparian uplands further up the drainage, deciduous trees.
Yeah, I think that's referencing maybe the map, where it included the Rock Creek corridor is, I guess point there is that riparian corridors are, just by the nature of the kind of vegetation that's there, and are more fire resistant than non-riparian areas.
Okay, I mean, we could add a statement in there, just kind of on the end that just kind of says that.
Okay,
And maybe we can say, you know, the city should work to preserve, riparian areas and corridors.
Yeah.
For, you know, to assist with, you know, wildland fire
That
control.
would be,
yeah,
that would be good.
Okay, yep, can do. Let's see, this one, add Robertson Draw Fire 2021. Yep, we can do that. Add and surrounding area is high.
we've already done that.
Yeah.
Well, let's see, yeah, so I think what Jeff's saying is, it says within the jurisdiction of the city of Red Lodge is high and the surrounding area is high. I think we just want to add that notation at the end of the sentence.
Sandy?
Do we have to list every fire that we had in the last 20 years?
He draws the picture.
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think it's just, we're just trying to, I guess, show that, you know, there is a inherent fire danger. You know, we do have this fire risk in the community, and just kind of showing examples of that. Right? I don't think we need to list every fire that's ever occurred in the last 20 years.
Just the most recent.
Well,
I just say the most recent, or even the most devastating ones or largest ones, right?
Or you could say, summarize it into, say, the number of fires, and then list the more recent ones. I think it just highlights the fact that Red Lodge is sitting within an area that has potential for high fire activity. And in fact, this just demonstrates or illustrates that in the past, that there have been several major fires with the potential of impacting Red Lodge.
I think it's a short enough paragraph that it draws a picture that's right.
Yep.
I like it.
Okay,
Okay. All right, so we're down into appropriate regulations and ordinances. I think this goes back to the fire
yeah,
stuff. Add zoning regulations to protect riparian area and wetlands which provide fuel breaks. Yeah, so we could just add a bullet point there that talks about, I would say, let's add zoning and subdivision regulations to protect riparian area and wetlands which provide fuel breaks.
Okay.
That would be my only change. So we'll just add a bullet in there for that, Jeff.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I don't see any more comments on that page. And this is the map you were talking about, right? The
Yep.
WUI map. Okay. See any comments here?
there weren't any initially, so,
Okay.
We're into
I think we're into drought
drought.
readiness.
yeah.
So it looks like Jeff has a comment. Drought readiness as an adoption strategy could be incorporated into a broader climate adaptation plan mentioned above.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the discussion under climate about extending or expanding on current sustainability plan to
To
actually
talk about,
climate adaptation as part of that, and drought readiness could be part of that discussion.
sure. Okay. Yeah, we could add, you know, maybe we can add a reference to the section above and Kevin, maybe let's add a discussion of drought readiness.
Do we want to just move that entire paragraph up underneath?
That's actually
there?
probably not a bad idea, is move that up to the climate discussion. Or at least, after the climate discussion. Wherever that was, that I just already posted, I think. This one? So maybe we should just include it in here. Is this what you're talking about, Jeff?
What's that?
Should we just
yeah.
include the drought readiness stuff, maybe in this climate, energy conservation, and sustainability section?
I like that idea.
Yeah, that would be fine.
That way it's kind of all together in one space.
Yeah.
Okay. We can do that. All right, we're moving on. Let's see. I don't see anything under noxious weed control or floodplain oh, wait, I do see something under floodplain.
Floodplain management, we had a comment.
I had a comment
Jeff?
under noxious.
Oh, we got one under
Okay.
noxious weed.
I don't know where it went, but
Huh?
I don't know why it's not showing up, but, noxious weed control, my comment was that it says we'll implement a noxious weed management plan, but we don't really have one. I know that it's not the mayor's fault, but every time the mayor churns, there's a new mayor, it comes as a surprise that, the county is not responsible for all the noxious weeds, and that the city is responsible for a portion among different lands, right?
That's actually not a correct statement. By state law, it is the county, it's not the city.
Well, our agreement with the county, we've been told over and over and over again, is that the city will take care of its own parks.
That is a true statement.
So that is true, and, different public lands within the city that the county claims are the city's responsibility. So, I mean, I've heard this over and over every time the mayor turns, but, do we need to or want to have the city understand what its responsibilities for weed management are? Do we need to say, it would be great if we had a weed management?
Recommend the city develop a noxious weed plan?
A weed
And
management?
it's the,
Yeah.
I think that the wording that we're going there is, the city needs to, and like Teresa's wording of, understand its role in implementing the noxious weed plan
Yeah,
developed by the county.
that would be wonderful.
Did you get that, Jeremy, that wording?
Yeah.
Want to say that again?
So, yeah, that's, the noxious weed plan by statute is the county. We assist them in implementing that on city-owned properties.
And do we also need to budget a certain portion for that? Or
We do.
we do, so that's why I thought it was important to call out that there is a city role.
Have you got that, Jeremy?
Yep, got it.
Okay. Now can we move to floodplain management?
Okay, we got a comment from Jeff. Let's see, there needs to be a provision for a minimum 50-foot setback for new residences boarding the creek. This has been mentioned in previous growth policies.
Yeah, I was just asking to insert a sentence that, to, have provision for establishing setbacks from streams.
And it's supposed to be for any structures.
Now we can work on some language to add in here. I think that would be important for both zoning and subdivision regulations to add
Yep.
stream setbacks for sure. Okay. 2022 flooding event.
So, it was just, I know I had the comment there, it's just confusing to me that we're reading along all of these, it reads like we're talking about resources, preparedness and documents and this and that, and then all of a sudden, we're just, boom, 2022 flooding event. So that is not a resource. So maybe it's just that it's being called out as a major, heading, as in everything else in this section. It just throws me.
You're asking why is that in that?
Yeah.
So you're just saying maybe it should be a different heading, so it's not like under the major headings. This should be just under generally the floodplain management section with a minor heading.
Right,
Yeah.
I understand why it's there, because it's a, for instance, we're talking about floodplain management. Oh, by the way, we had a 2022 flooding event, but it's not a management resource. It's an event.
Yeah, so I mean, I think what we can do is just make, instead of making this like a major heading,
Yeah.
we'll just make it as a subheading under floodplain management, just to highlight that event, right?
Yeah, it's an example of what.
I see it as a subheading, right.
Right, right.
Yep, a subheading, for sure. Okay?
Hang on, Susan?
Because the part before that is talking about, although 100-year flood sounds remote, over the life of and so forth, it would follow, although you wouldn't have to have a heading that says 2022 flooding event, it would fit there nicely to say, and by the way, for example, we're impacted by a 500-year in
Yeah,
2022.
and that's why I want to make it a subheading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Sandy?
Sorry.
Sandy?
I just think it needs to be a continuation of that last paragraph. And I don't think we need to get into the weeds on it. Basically, the city should continue to pursue land acquisition to ensure the natural floodway will not be impeded to avoid catastrophic loss. I mean, I don't mind the first sentence saying that we had a 0.2% chance of flooding. But I don't think we need to get into the whole thing. The city is still completing remediation cleanup. You know, we don't need to say it was because of the rain on snow scenario. I think the bottom line is to say that we did have a 500-year flood, and the city should continue to ensure that the natural floodway will not be impeded.
So you wouldn't make it a subheading, you just add it as a paragraph.
Absolutely, we're talking about floodplain management.
I think I like that idea.
And this is an action document,
Yeah.
this isn't historic. We don't need to go into everything that's ever happened, that's why I was saying, so we've had fires, we had 6 fires, it'd be, recent fires, many recent fires, or something, but to get into all the historic stuff, I just don't think it needs to
I
be
think
in
I
the
agree with that, Jeff. You just make it a paragraph.
Well, I don't, yeah, I think it's paragraph, but I do like that first sentence. I mean, at least the why it happened was
Yeah,
because there was an atmospheric river
yeah,
that stalled over the Beartooth Mountains, causing
yeah.
a severe rain on snow event. I think you could end it there. I don't know you need to say anything about a 500-year or 2% chance of flooding. I think the fact that that event was triggered by a specific climatic event, which has the potential of happening again, and in fact did happen in 2005.
Yeah.
It was a similar event, just didn't impact Red Lodge, but it impacted Beartooth Highway significantly. So I think basically why I'm saying that is because of where Red Lodge is located in along Rock Creek, it is susceptible to the effects of major rain on snow events, typically driven by these atmospheric rivers that are becoming more prevalent. So it's not just looking back, but it's anticipating future.
And then to continue, that the city should continue to pursue.
So what I'm hearing is it shouldn't be a heading, it's just an additional paragraph, summarizing the event. Jeremy?
Yep, we got it.
Did you get the wording that Jeff and Sandy suggested?
Yes.
So describe the event, but not go into the, I like that sentence about heavily impacted by a 500-year flood, 2% chance. I like that, rain, snow.
And then what the city should do.
And then what the city should do.
And we can add that language that we had in above section, about
Okay.
acquiring property and, yeah.
So take away the heading and just make it a paragraph, right?
Yep, can do.
All right. Moving on to the diagram.
I mean, this is just a standard FEMA
Yeah.
diagram of the floodplain, so I don't think there's anything there. Sand and gravel, I don't see any comments there. There's a floodplain map, which,
Do we need to have sand and gravel in here?
I thought it was a requirement.
you do, Montana statute requires that you identify sand and gravel resources.
Yeah.
So that is a requirement.
There you go. Ground script fine.
All right, we're down into wildlife.
And we, yep. We're down to wildlife considerations.
So we got, so just changing grizzly bear to, looks like, endangered species instead of species of concern. Okay, yeah, we can identify that separately. We'll take that out of that list and add a separate sentence in here that says, grizzly bears are listed as a threatened and endangered species. Do that. Let's see, we got riparian habitat. Got a
Just,
comment.
Before you go on, just kind of a comment that I attended the bear meeting last night, and one of the things that they were advocating is that the city adopt sort of a wildlife management plan to improve education. And I'm just I guess I'm wondering if a sentence along those lines would be worth adding. I can't think of the exact wording that they used, but it was,
Yeah, we could add a sentence to the end of this section.
and I can get the term or specifically that was used by Fish, Wildlife, and Parks last night, but
Wildlife management plan sounds right, but yeah, if you want to get us the exact term, that we can add it in here.
That wildlife management plan should be suffice.
yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Is this paragraph on wildlife something that is like a standard? Because it mentions Yellowstone River and muskrats and mink and river otters and beavers, and I haven't seen any of those in Red Lodge.
Oh, muskrats we've seen.
You seen a muskrat?
Oh, yeah, over the pond.
Oh, but no river otters? And it's Yellowstone cutthroat trout is indigenous to Yellowstone River.
Well, and its tributaries. So it says
Yeah.
Yellowstone River and its tributaries.
And like I said, this is a Red Lodge growth policy, so I'm kind of lost on why we're discussing Yellowstone.
Well, we're part of the greater area, so yeah. Teresa?
Yeah, Rock Creek is a tributary to the Yellowstone River.
Yeah. So going back to what Jeff was saying about the wildlife management plan, do we need to carry that back to our, what was it, would it be natural?
Action plan?
Yeah, do we need to carry that back to create a wildlife management plan? Is
Yeah.
it something we put together?
That should be an action item is what she's asking.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we'll make sure that gets added up into the action plan.
Okay.
Okay. Riparian habitats. Travel corridor may be more of appropriate term, specifically Rock Creek riparian area.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can change that wording. No problem. Anything else under that?
Migration route.
Yeah.
We got a wetlands map. This comes just from the National Wetlands Inventory mapping. So that's what this map is depicting. Okay, we got native grasslands and shrublands. So let's see. You want to add sagebrush communities in here, Jeff? Is that what? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We can add some discussion on sagebrush.
Say again, Sandy?
Do we need to include turkeys in this human wildlife conflict?
Yep.
They do attack,
They chased you down the road.
They
Did you hear that? Turkeys?
Yep, we'll add turkeys.
Turkeys, moose, Grizzly.
I had a grizzly bear in my backyard last month, so,
Black bears and,
Something else that was mentioned and stressed last night was that Red Lodge is a hot spot for bear-human conflict.
yeah.
Yes.
And so, I don't know, that might be worth, that's not in here, that might be something worth highlighting as well.
People are gonna read this and go, "Here."
so that's why we need a wild.
Well, yeah, I think we can add grizzly bears, we'll add moose, we'll add, turkeys in there as
Yep.
specifics, specific
Well,
conflict.
last night, they were specifically referencing grizzly bears and black bears.
Yeah, grizzly bear are around now.
And
Sure.
maybe, maybe if you visit with the bear management specialist, Fish, Wildlife and Parks in Billings, he could give you some wording to clarify that a little bit better.
Okay, well, we'll add some expansion, we'll add some language to this section on bear conflict. Okay,
On the existing wetlands, there was another map that was existing wetlands and riparian areas that I commented on. Is this is specifically to wetlands, right, and not riparian areas?
it says existing
Change
wetlands.
It doesn't say riparian.
It does have riparian on the map as well. It says
Yeah.
existing wetlands, but it does have a riparian designations on there.
Yeah, that's this other map that well, I guess it is just wetlands.
Yeah.
I thought there was one that said wetlands and riparian.
Yeah, I think this is the only map, and again, this comes from the National Wetlands Database that has these designations in it. So it's just GIS layer from the National Wetlands Inventory.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why that area north of, the city boundary along Rock Creek didn't get classified in that. When the area south of Red Lodge did. Same environment, same braided stream.
Kevin, can you talk to your GIS guy and see if maybe something got clipped out here? I mean, it looks like the city wastewater ponds are up here as ponds, so I'm assuming nothing got clipped out up here, but can you just make a note and check that with your GIS guys?
I will have them take a look at the data and see if they're missing anything.
It is kind of interesting that down here on the south side, like Jeff said, it shows riparian forested, but then north it doesn't show anything, but it should be the same.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And then if you expanded that map out to the full length of Rock Creek, that area just north is classified as riparian forest and wetlands all the way to the confluence. So it's like this one little section, and there is no difference between what's omitted and how the
Right.
rest of it is mapped.
Okay.
I
Well,
think,
we'll
Jeff, it's just a GIS error, and so I think we can get it taken care of.
And the other comment I had was, that I had sent in, had to do more with sort of the springs and wetlands along the west bench. Those are probably too small in scale to show up in a map, but I'm wondering if those should be at least mentioned.
it's in the line.
Oh,
In a narrative or something.
You're talking about up here?
No, if you scroll down on your map. it shows
Went
the
too
map.
far.
You went too far. Basically, it's a string of wetlands and springs that are within the golf course, but they extend basically the full length of the west bench. You look on a close-up of an aerial photo, you'll see those patches of aspen and willow and
They're in there, they're just so small.
Talking about kind of like through here?
No,
No.
go all the way to the golf course along the highway. See that strip? Oops. You can see that strip of green that's on the slope
Here?
of the bend? Yeah,
Okay,
all of those, I mean, those are basically a series of springs and wetlands all along that slope.
Behind the hospital.
Yeah.
gotcha.
Well,
Okay,
all over the other end as well.
Yeah, those patches actually extend the full length of the west bench.
Mhm.
well, it looks like we have some, again, it might be maybe a data thing, because it looks like there's some showing up here. But then it doesn't seem like it extends down through here.
Maybe they'll need
Yeah,
something
it
like.
may be just a function of the scale
Yeah.
that they're mapped at. I don't necessarily say that they have to be mapped, I was just suggesting that they be mentioned as in the narrative
Right.
under wetland and riparian.
Okay, all right, yeah, we can do that. We'll work on.
Something to the effect that the scale of the map may not show some areas of wetlands, for example, you
Right.
know, East Bench.
Yep, we can do that. Okay, I think we're
Looks like
down.
you've gotten through it here. Are you gonna add the downtown master plan once it's approved and the airport master plan, if and when it's approved, to the appendix?
I don't know if you want to add them to the actual document. I think you want to just reference them. Otherwise, this document's going to be very big if you add them as appendices. I think you would just want to add them as reference them as separate documents. I don't know that you want to.
Well, I would agree with the airport master plan, but the downtown master plan should be part of the growth policy.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we could do that. Yeah, I think that was now that I recall it, I think that was kind of the plan, was to have that as an appendix. So yes.
So the downtown master plan will be appendix 7, and the airport master plan will just be referenced?
I will know those answers tomorrow. Basically, it's if it's going to exist, if it's gonna be something.
But
that's
if it
available.
is approved, should it be an appendix, or should it just be referenced?
I think you're making this monster document referenced.
I
Okay.
think
All of
reference.
these could be referenced, frankly. They don't
Yeah,
have to be.
I think a lot of these, I mean, I think you could almost make appendix 1 your downtown master plan, and the rest of these documents just need to be referenced. This thing's gonna
Okay.
be 500 pages long if you have all of these documents.
Teresa has a comment.
It's just a quick thing. I know we're not looking through all the maps, but looking at the last map reminded me. I don't know that we ever got maybe we had an answer, but I don't remember. Does the city boundary itself need to be changed because of the 2017 de-annexation of that Heimer set of plots or properties that was given over to the county? Because it still appears that it's in the city on every single map. And so I don't think we ever got an answer. Maybe we did, but
I don't remember.
Well, I think you're right that the boundaries do need to change, but I don't think it's important for the growth policy.
not in the city.
It's gonna be very, very important for the zoning. We're gonna have
Well,
to
we're
adjust.
going to all these great pains to introduce all these new maps. Can't we introduce the correct city boundaries?
I'm kind of with Teresa on that. I think the city boundary ought to be correct.
If you can get us that specific property, then we can get the maps updated for the correct
Yeah, and
boundary.
I can send it, it's right in Montana Cadastral. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
where that little carve-out is on the left, we just need to extend it. And I'll send you
What was the
that.
name of
I
that?
know there's a couple of them we have wrong, because like it
Yeah.
includes the cemetery, which is not in city limits. And then there was a de-annexation, you're talking about
On
just across
Cole
from the
Drive.
golf course,
Yeah.
the view,
On Coal
No,
Drive.
I'm talking about south
Cool,
of the
right.
rodeo grounds, that last section. of
county
the
piece?
Fairgrounds, yeah, that was also de-annexed.
and I haven't looked at, I know that I've seen it as showing up as de-annexed, oh, yeah, that,
Yeah, below that little carve-out on the left.
yeah, so that map is incorrect.
My comment is the city boundary should be correct.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
And maybe.
And so how do we go
the one to the
about
north
making sure they have the correct data?
map.
I'll bet Tom Coley could do a quick, but he's not our resource.
I think we work with Jeremy to get a corrected map.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
Jeremy?
Dave, I mean, if you could mark up one of these maps and just say, you know, what's wrong, what's not accurate, then we.
And I think what we should do is we should do a draft of that and then bring it to this board to make sure that it aligns with things that they are, see, and even yours doesn't match necessarily what we have here. And then, yeah, and there's a second, so A, it should be as correct as we can possibly make it. Absolutely, it's a given. B, Al has already alluded to the fact that we need to update our zoning documents, and that includes a map there. And I think there's some corrections, and I actually have it marked for staff communication and updates. But I would like for somebody to explain to me the casino / coffee shop / sandwich shop on a P1.
Where's that?
Right where the casino is. That whole
Okay,
zoning is listed.
I don't want to go down that road.
No, I'll raise it at the end here, but,
The end was 10 minutes ago.
I'm just saying there are errors.
And then my next question is, adjustment of the city boundary, will it be significant enough to adjust the 1 mile, buffer zone?
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
no,
I don't
'cause
want,
we
I
just
don't
made-
want
we
to
just
have
made a-
unintended consequence here.
No. Fair question, but no.
It's
Okay.
all along the same.
All right.
Yeah, I think we got through the growth policy.
Here that's not listed is the urban renewal district plan.
Yeah,
That should be referenced.
That should be an appendix too. Oh, did we lose them?
uh-oh.
No. I stopped sharing, but yeah, we can add a reference to the urban renewal district plan.
Okay. Okay. What we need to do now is after, I don't know how many hours, we've made it through the initial draft of the growth policy and its maps. And so now, what I'm anticipating, Jeremy, and you can help me with this, is that you and Kevin and parties included are gonna prepare the final draft. And that will be submitted to the planning board. And I'm hopefully for just cursory review, just to make sure we're not anywhere going into the detail we did now, just to kind of make sure we're consistent and it's agreement with our notes and comments. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, sorry. Greg messaged me on Teams, and so I was reading his. Yes, so the plan going forward, Kevin will get us the updated final draft with all of the changes that we've talked about up to this point. Greg and I will review that document, make sure that everything's been changed, make sure we don't have any additional comments or suggestions. I don't think we will. We've kind of been incorporating my comments and my suggestions throughout, so I think, you should get a nice, clean final draft. And then, yes, you just have to basically do what
And
pass through.
going into the holiday season now, when is a reasonable expectation that we would get that draft?
I would probably defer to Kevin maybe on his schedule. I mean, Greg and I can review it in pretty short order. But
Let's see, when's the next meeting gonna be?
We're gonna discuss that, but right now it's in January. It's January 8th.
It's early because the 1st is a Wednesday, so.
That's right.
It's January 8th. January 8th, our next meeting.
Is the next one. I think because of the holiday, let's reasonably probably shoot for that second meeting in January. So I think that would be the 22nd, yep.
Okay, and anticipation for agenda items, Greg? 22nd. All right.
well,
Anything
and I
else?
would keep in mind that you're gonna be starting the downtown master plan review at the first January meeting, and I suspect you're not gonna get through all that in the first meeting. So
That was my next topic here. It was on our agenda tonight, but obviously we're not gonna get to it. I didn't anticipate we would, but we need to have that on the agenda, but we need to get the, member comments included in the draft, just as similar to what we did here, which we have not received yet. I think you've gotten comments from at least 3 of us, and hopefully we'd incorporate those like we did on this document and get a copy to us before January 8th. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, Greg is the one that's been incorporating comments in, so I would defer to him, but
Is that reasonable?
Yeah, they're pretty much all
And
incorporated.
you send and as soon as you have it finished, or to whatever date that is, you'll get a copy to the planning board members.
With everyone's comments?
Yeah.
Yep, I can do that.
You know, just like you did here, highlighted and so forth.
Mhm.
And, okay, is that good with everybody?
Yeah.
So on the January 8th meeting, obviously downtown master plan will be on the agenda.
Looking forward long-term, I anticipate we'll see some development actions probably February, March on the,
I
resubmittal.
want to get to that here in a minute, okay, when we talk about future scheduling. I'm just talking about downtown master plan right now.
Sorry.
Okay, is that right? All right. Now, staff communication and updates. Now,
From application.
what,
Okay, staff update, so, which is future. So anticipate something probably February, March on the Spires. We don't have the pre-application meeting set up, but I anticipate that going through very, very quickly. They've taken the feedback from this board, and basically drawn up a new plan, so.
but you don't think we'll see that till February or March?
Greg, timeline, I think that's just kind of where it fits, right?
It'll be roughly 40 days working days from when they submit their application.
And they haven't submitted it yet?
No.
No. Yeah, and we have timeline bounds that we're bound to it. Like a 15-day response and then a 30-day response.
Okay, but these are things that we're gonna have to work around, or we're gonna have to work downtown, master plan review and finalization for the growth policy to go to council. Hopefully, we get that done in January,
Yeah,
hopefully.
but you've got public input. After the growth
Yeah.
policy is
They have a
passed.
hearing.
Yeah, then we gotta have a
then we
public hearing.
hearing.
So maybe we'll get that to the council by February.
I think that's.
So what I'm thinking is the public hearing on the growth policy would be the second meeting in January?
No,
If it's ready.
no.
You'll have to look.
no, I think you're being into February, because you'll have the second draft by the second meeting in January. I think you're gonna want to make a quick run through that.
Yeah.
And I think we,
That's right.
I think
Yeah.
you schedule the public hearing for the second meeting in February.
Okay, and the public hearing can be held here, we don't need to go to the auditorium,
Okay,
right?
correct.
Right? We can announce that we published it on the webpage, review it, and then come in on a February meeting for your, okay. Okay, anything other than the Spires?
Yes, just by way of information, Monday at 5:30, Brewery Hill, public hearing at the senior center.
Yeah, I got that.
And then the other thing that I had identified, it came up because of some other development and stuff that we're looking at, and Jeremy actually has it pulled up. But that P1, the small pointy block on top, is the chamber, and the block down below that actually has P1 on it is the bowling alley, the coffee shop, the sandwich shop.
Oh, that's not right.
And it's like, why do we have that labeled as a P1? And we have some potential development opportunities in that area that would be impacted by that. So I just wanted to add that to the list of, is that the intent, or is that an error, and do we need to make a correction and get it in there?
That's a mistake.
Because that's what's documented everywhere, and it's,
Okay,
Is
that
it because it's city owned?
it is city-owned, but I don't know that automatically makes it P1.
That's the
Okay.
question.
that goes to, we'll add that to our priority list.
And that was all.
Anything else, Greg?
Nope, that's it.
petitions from the audience? Anybody online? Going once, twice? Okay. All right, under other business, I sent you all a copy of our, actually the February, or, no, it's March 1st, Red Lodge Planning Board and Zoning Commission priority list that we, and you notice that we as a board list priorities that we think are important individually, and then we go share it with the city council and they add their comments and then we finalize it. What I'm going to ask you to do is between now and January 8th to think about things that need to go on this priority list. If you send them to me, I will create a document similar to this and then submit it to each of you to put in priorities. One of those priorities obviously would be the P1 zone review. Or anything else you see on there. As you go through that, the downtown master plan is in progress. The growth policy we've nearly completed. The airport master plan, obviously, that's going to have a different priority. And then you see some of the other priorities that I sent you. So there's no right or wrong. If you think it's important as a priority, send it to me, and I will create a document to send out to each of you to rank. And hopefully we can do that between now and January 8th. Does that make any sense to everybody? Any questions? John? Okay. And I'll make sure that P1 zone review is on that priority list. All right.
I would just like to add, if subdivision regulation updates are not on that list, please make sure that's on, okay. I mean, it'll probably be more of a mid-year update because now that we're going into a legislative session, I suspect there will be more subdivision, amendments. So we'll want to capture any changes that the legislature makes this session into future updates.
And Jeremy, that goes for you too, to send me some thoughts that, you just mentioned that one, but anything else you think we ought to be looking at in the next 12 to 18 months? And I'll create an Excel spreadsheet and I will add Marnie and Marie's place, I guess.
We need to add the clarification for R3 zoning as it relates to.
Yep. But that is part of the zoning regulation review. So I mean, again, I have some of my ideas. I know each of you have yours. I'm not, just give them to me and I'll create this. Okay? The next item is, very quickly, our schedule. Obviously, we're not going to meet on Christmas of this month. So our next scheduled meeting is January 8th. And we've already talked about, hopefully we'll get started on the downtown master plan. As I read through that document, hopefully I won't see the detail of the review that we saw in the growth policy. I noticed that they incorporated a lot of what we got out of the forum, and so I thought that was pretty darn good. So the first pass at this, Jeremy, was pretty good, and Kevin, or Greg, whoever put that all together. Huh?
I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
We're so old.
This will be my last in-person meeting here for a while. We're headed to the Carolinas here in another 13 days or 14 days. Jeff and I have discussed this. I'll remain as chair, but Jeff will be our vice chair and he will be facilitating the meetings. I'll be on virtual. We work pretty well as a team, so I think we'll be okay, huh?
Could be.
All right.
It's really good of you to do this on your vacation, really.
I've been on vacation since 2000.
I do not think that means what you think it means.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I guess the definition
Yeah.
of vacation is kind of.
And
mine
so,
versus his.
January 8th, hopefully everybody's gonna be available for that. And, also, I'll remind you that STR, discussion should be on the January 8th, agenda. Because by that time, I will have sent the planning board members the recommended revisions and also the PowerPoint summary, so.
And I'll include Greg on that as
Hmm?
well. In fact, do you want me to send that to you and Greg and have Greg send it out to everybody, or do you
I'll
want to send it out? Okay.
Yeah, Gregor and I'll frickin' track that, but,
Yeah. I'll send it to both of you.
yeah, yeah. We'll make sure it happens. If they get it twice, so the best. Now, the other question I had is, now that we've been through this draft, the growth policy, we should probably post it on.
And I have that written down as a follow-up for you, what's the turnaround time before I get to update what we have posted to the public on the website?
I mean, as soon as he gets it to us, you can post it, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, how about after we look at it?
No, at this point, I would put it on.
But it's when we get it to us, and
Yeah,
when is that date?
22nd.
Yeah, I would say, Dave, we should be able to, I mean, that'll be included in the planning board packet, right, the week before, so I would say the week before the 22nd meeting,
Because the document you put on the website now will be the ones that incorporate our planning board comments.
Yep, it should.
Okay, likewise, I wouldn't post the downtown master plan until we get a chance to review our comments the
Okay,
first
so
time
no,
through.
don't post that yet. So that's already answered the question that I have to follow up
Yeah.
for you, so.
Do we agree with that?
Well, it's already
Absolutely.
been posted.
The master plan?
There is a version, actually, yeah, the downtown has not.
There was a link to it where you go onto the city website, where you could, if you
Yeah.
clicked on it.
We had it one, I think the downtown, we point to the two previous versions, but not the draft copy of this.
Well, if it's on, fine, but then we'll repost
We'll
it
update
after
it.
our comments are made. Okay?
Yep.
Any other business?
I want to talk to you about something, but it doesn't have to have everybody.
Okay. I wish you all a very good holiday, and I'll see you
Safe
virtually.
travel.
John,
Thank you.
thanks for hanging in there with us, buddy. Are you gonna be on virtual now for a while?
I don't have an answer for that. No, and yes, depends on when I need to be back.
Yeah,
My goal is
Okay.
no.
all right. I appreciate your participation and wish you well, and everybody have a happy holiday, and we're adjourned.
Thanks, Bob.
Safe travels.